All right, so with the fishy code, you're finding and fixing the error in this program so it runs until the user chooses to close the window. Raise your hand if you need more time to look through this. Okay, so at the end, you had a while loop that had been started, but you didn't have any action to it. So what you needed to do was finish with a window dot finish frame. So you had the window, and then the finish frame is your method or function. Okay? And I am going to go ahead and pull up the instruction. You will want to open your Canvas ePortfolio so that you can add to your vocab. Okay, so while you're getting it open, I will go ahead and get started. So when we say graphics, I just want you to remember that graphics are anything visual that we see on the screen when our program runs. Okay? So far, we've learned how to create things with characters, props, and backgrounds. Today, we're going to look at how we can draw text to our window as well. So the two vocab words that you're going to add to your canvas is going to be text and constant. Okay? So here are two screenshots of popular phone apps. What's missing on them? If you look up here at these two graphics, what is missing? Text. Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at a messaging system on the left. It's a screenshot. What specific kinds of text would you expect to see in a messaging app? Letters and numbers, yeah. Yeah, you definitely see some letters as to who it's from, or if they're not a contact, you might see numbers from the phone number it's from, and then, of course, letters, numbers, and special characters, maybe even some emojis in your actual message back and forth, okay? Also, the time maybe that the message was sent might be another one. So how useful is a messaging app if you don't have text? Could you, I know we do a lot of emojis. Could you function on just emojis alone? Probably not. I mean, you might be able to for a little bit until you needed to have a serious conversation. Okay? So look at the one to the right. This would be a photo sharing app screenshot. What specific text would you expect to see in a photo sharing app? Like Instagram. What stuff would you expect to see text-wise in Instagram? Okay, yeah, location of photos, the username, captions, comments, followers, those following. Sometimes they have like a little bio under their username, maybe even a link to a website if they're trying to attract attention to a blog or to work they've done on a website, okay? All of those things. So again, while we always enjoy seeing photos without text, it would eventually get to where you couldn't do a whole lot with it. Okay, because the text is where how you find out where that beautiful sunset was taken so that you can schedule your next vacation there, right? It tells you who the name is of the person so that you can pay more attention to their work if you really liked what they were doing. So text is an on-screen graphic based on a string. Okay? Text is an on-screen graphic based on a string. Now, if you look at the code at the bottom of that, those are obviously arguments that you want to include in a text label. We have font size, X position, Y position, width of the text box, the actual string that we want to appear, and then the color. Okay? So we usually think about photos or pictures when talking about graphics, but text is also part of graphics when we're not just talking about the console. Remember that console is at the bottom where you're able to, they ask for input and you give input in the console. But remember, some of the programs have something above, graphics. And text, when you put it on there, would also be considered then in the graphics category. So to create text in our programs, we use the text label class. And I want you to notice right here that, remember, classes, you capitalize the first letter. Well, this is a two-word name, so it has the first letter of both words capitalized, okay? Now, if that second one wasn't, it's not going to affect whether it works or not. This is just to make things easy for the user or for the coders to read and be able to go in and find things, okay? So I told you about the arguments. The last argument, the color, is optional. If you don't include the argument, then the black will be chosen by default. This is the first time we've seen an argument for a function that is optional, but we'll learn more about this argument later, okay? So what kind of text might we want to appear in games that we design? When you go play a game, what is one of the first things that'll pop up? Say that again. Okay, a loading screen, but think about text-wise. The name of the game, okay? Instructions. Maybe choosing how many players you want to play the game. Score. Lives left. And sometimes that's still graphical, but usually even if it's graphical, you'll have lives, colon, and then 3 graphics. Okay? And end game. You win an end game. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and open part 2 countdown from the projects. And let's go ahead and run it and see what this program does. Okay? Countdown timer. So that's another piece of text that could go in our game program, right? So it counts down from 10 to 0, and then as it gets closer, the last 4 digits, 0 to 3, are red to show that you're getting closer. So you're going to get 3 minutes to experiment with this. What I want you to do is I want you to try to change the starting color of the countdown text, change the position of the text, because right now it is pretty much the center of the screen, and show a time is up message once the seconds get to 0. Okay, so let's see how you can do that. Okay, so tell me, what did you change? What did you change to change the starting color of the countdown text? Where'd you find that? What line? Look in your code. Line 17, and it was the end of that, or the end argument. Okay, was there anybody that put in a color that didn't work? Okay. Then, where did we go to change the position? Also 17, yeah. Which one of those numbers does the X and Y? Okay, so the first one is the font size. So go ahead and change that 300 of the first one to 30, just so you can see the difference in the font size. Okay. And then you can change it back. So it's the second and third that are changing the fonts, the position, the X and then the Y. And X, remember, always comes before Y. Okay, and where did you try to put a time is up message once the seconds get to 0? Did anybody get that one? Okay, well, what happens if you put a print statement? What happens if you put a print statement outside at the end of the while loop? Has anybody tried that? Say that again. Never mind. So does that work if you put that there? Did anybody find another way to do that? You don't see time is up there at the end? Okay. Okay, so yeah, that's one way to do it, is just put a print statement outside of the while loop. Now remember, if it's outside of the while loop, that means though that it is all the way aligned to the left side of the page. There's no indentation there. Okay. Okay, let's move on. All right, so our next vocab word is a constant. A constant is, and you got to remember this one, it is a variable that stores a value that does not change. It's a variable that stores a value that does not change. Now, if you're looking at the two examples below the definition, what stands out about those two things? What's something different in those two lines that we haven't seen before in code, in our code rather? Have y'all seen all caps before? You have? Where? Huh? When you, no, a class is the first letter is capitalized. Yeah. So a constant is all caps. Okay, so I'd put that there with your definition. When you write a constant, you are writing it in all capital letters. That way you know it is a constant. Most of the time we'll use constants from libraries, but it is also possible to define a constant in our code as a reminder to ourselves that it shouldn't change anywhere in our program. For example, we wouldn't usually want the size of a button or the color of our normal text to change as our program runs. So we can use constants for those values. We could use literals instead, but having one constant to refer to makes it easier to remember and ensures we're consistent throughout our program. We'll learn some more uses of constants once we start talking about mouse and keyboard input. Okay, so look here, you can visualize the colors that the TS app provides you. We'll use color constants that are built into TS app to set the color of our text. Here are 15 available color constants, which you can find in Code Assist as well. These specific colors are the standard set of colors used by web pages and web browsers, and that could be a whole lesson upon itself. You need to realize that what you see on paper and what you see on screen are two different color modes. They make their colors differently. So when we talk about on screen or web graphics, we're talking about RGB colors. And on a website, 256 colors you can choose from, okay, when you create a website. Okay. So, similar to sprites with image files, when you create a text label instance, we need a font file in our project for the first argument. So there's over 100 fonts you can choose from for your text. Once you've added the file to your project, you need to make sure the first argument matches the full file name exactly. So when you see the .ttf, does anybody know what that stands for in a font file? Oh no, I just closed it. Hang on. I didn't mean to. I don't know if it'll open it back up to the right spot or not. Nope. Hang on. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Did not mean to do that. Okay. TTF is a true type font. So when you go to like dafont.com and you download free fonts, sometimes they give you a .ttf file, sometimes they give you an OTF file, sometimes they give you both. So you just have to make sure that you pay attention to the file extension so that you get it in there correctly, okay? Okay, so open the projects panel. Under fonts, click add font and look at the different font options for you. So you'll scroll down. You have the ability to add code, add image, add sound, data, fonts. Here you have add font, and then you have a list of them that you can choose from some that are script, some that are big and block, some that are normal fonts. One thing that you do need to make sure as you're creating your own, you need to make sure that you're choosing fonts that are and font colors, both, that are easy to read. Okay, and then once you do, go ahead and add one font of your choosing. Okay, now text can be left aligned, center aligned, or right aligned. If you are putting in a heading, depending on the placement of everything else, you know, it can be any of those. One thing that I do want to point out as far as design principles go, if you're putting in a paragraph, don't center align your paragraph. Always left align it. And that's because our eyes naturally go back to where they started. And if they're starting in a different place on each line of text because it's centered, our eyes don't follow it well. Okay? So much like when we're writing a document in a text editor like Word or Google Docs, we can align our text to different parts of the screen. By default, text is aligned to the left, but by changing the align attribute with a new string value, we can instead align that same text to the center or to the right. Remember that the fifth argument of our text label is the width of the invisible box that the text is drawn into. So increasing the width means more words will appear on each line, but you need to make sure your words aren't drawn off the edge of the screen. So let's try creating our own text. Let's go to the, I gotta find it, Part 3 Name Styles. Open Part 3 Name Styles. Okay, so we're gonna change the value of the name variable to match our own name. Open the project panel, and you're going to add 3 fonts to use to match the solution code, which let me tell you what fonts they are right now as we look for them, because you'll want the same 3. Go to add font. You're going to want Bigelow. And I believe does it allow you to search? Is that big? Gosh, my eyes have gotten bad. I can't read that one. That one might be Bigelow. I have no idea. I can't even read it. I'll add it. I have no idea. It is. That was Bigelow rules. Okay. Also add rye, and this is in alphabetic order, so it should make it easier to find. And then Serena regular. So you're adding Bigelow, rye, and Serena. And I'm not sure why it doesn't show up on both. Oh, and you know what? I just realized you didn't have to do one at a time. You can do it, you can click on more than one at a time. All right, so on line once you choose those 3 fonts, on line 13 where it says my name, go ahead and type in your first and last name. Please use a capital letter at the beginning of each of your names. All right. After the create some text instances comment that is on line 15, we are going to create and let me increase the size here for you. we're going to create an instance. So text1 is the instance name. And it is coming from tsap.textlabelClass. And your arguments are that you are using the Serena regular.ttf. And remember, you need to spell it exactly like you see, including the capital letters. I don't know that it will work without the capital letters, because that is how it's named in the file. After the font of Serena Regular, you have a font size of 50. You have an X position of 0 and a Y position of 100. The text instance, or the text box, is going to be 1018 pixels, which is the full width of that particular window. Okay, so that's where those 4 numbers come from. Font size, X position, Y position, text box width. And it's using the variable name, and currently it's putting it as gray. We're going to go ahead and do 2 more text instances. So you're going to have text2, and I would go ahead and copy that full line and then make the changes as needed. Okay, so you have text2 and text3, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to increase the size one more time to make that bigger. So at this point, each one of those has a different font. Of the ones that we using the ones we downloaded. And it's using 3 different colors. However, you can alter the colors as you like. And I'll give you a few more seconds to get that up there. Remember, instead of typing it from scratch, if you highlight that first line and copy it and paste it, you can just sub out the differences. So you should have text1, text2, text3 as your instances. Each one is using a different font, and then of course it does have different numbers. All 3 of them are going to be your name, and they are all going to use a color from TSApp. All right, now on line 21, we have an add text to the scene comment. We are going to use that window.add object. And we are going to use the 3 instances of text we just created. So you have one instance of window, add object is your method or function. And again, write it, type it once, copy it, paste it, edit it. Once you get those 3 in there, go ahead and run your code and check to see what it does right now. Okay, and if you look, you should see 3 different fonts, 3 different colors, 3 different font sizes. And I also want you to realize, guys, that your font size, you could have 50 for each of these, and they're still probably going to look different because 50 is not necessarily the same on every font. I want to make sure you understand that. Okay, so that's something that you have to learn to play with. But they are all currently aligned to the left side. So we are going to put in some alignment. We'll go ahead and keep text 1 aligned to the left. And since that's done by default, we don't need to put that in there. But we do need to change the alignment for text 2 and text 3 instances to center and right. So you're going to have text 2 dot align equals center, text 3 dot align equals right. And once you have it, test it, see that it works. And then once you get it working, go ahead and, like I just changed my font size, not of my middle one, but of my first and third to something different so you can see what it does and how changing it could affect the size of it or how it looks. Obviously, it's going to affect the size of it, but like, is it going to make it too big, too small? All right, let's look at this last slide. Let's look at this little piece of code up here, and let's figure out what this says, or what is this piece of code going to do? Who can tell me what this is going to do? So right here, you know that the text is actually over here, right? So that's giving all of the arguments to put in that piece of text. What is this doing down here? Okay, it's not doing anything about the program ending. That is for sure. Yes. What is this rand int doing? Yeah, it's giving a random x coordinate, x position to it. So that means that every time it runs, over here is going to be put in a different horizontal position on the x coordinate. Okay? All right, so let me open. You guys have two practices, creative caption, as well as the King's Armies. With the text practice, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but sometimes you need a little more information about what is actually going on. Add an amusing caption to this image to explain what might be happening. Okay, so here you have an area here down at line 30 for your text creation. This is the image. And you want to put something down to the brown box at the bottom of the window describing what you think is happening in the scene. Have fun with it. Be creative. You can refer back to your demo to see the code for how to put in text. It doesn't need a variable because it is only putting it in one time. When you finish, make sure you hit submit and then go to the next one. And then if you finish early, make sure that you go back and have everything finished from the previous weeks because our grades are due Friday.